Okay, welcome back. I've affixed with a rubber band here I'll turn it, a popsicle stick to one of the sides of this, and that's to aid in alignment. Remember your cradle, the aluminum V thing, angle iron, is straight, and if the stem is bent, it's going to occupy a little off-center type of situation there, and which doesn't matter in the slightest. You just move it forward and backward till you get it, the base of it, to be solidly mounted. But it does mean that from time to time you're going to need to stamp a few degrees off of 90 degrees from the holding mechanism here, and you don't want a crooked stamp. So it's hard to align a surface like this unless you have something like a popsicle stick or it doesn't matter what it is as long as it's straight and visible to you. So that's the reason for that. And I've already used the XY table to zero the position of the stamp above the stem, and you didn't need to see me do that because it's rudimentary. So all we do now is bring it down into contact, and there'll be some compression because of the leather, and that's okay. That's how it's designed to work. And then I switch hands so that I apply pull down pressure with my left hand and can roll it with my right hand, and better control that way because I'm right-handed. So for better or for worse, here we go. I'm putting quite about a, I don't know in pounds what it would be, but a fair amount of pressure here as I rock it side to side. And it takes a bit of experience to kind of know how far to go, but it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure it out. You just have to, like any tool, you have to experiment with it till you figure out just how it works with you. I'd recommend doing it on some junk stems till you got that figured out. So anyway, that was it. That's the entire exercise, and I'll cut this loose. Now you can't really see too well the stamp in there because it hasn't been painted white yet. Maybe you can see something. Well, just normally it'll raise the edges ever so slightly of the impression, and normally you end up sanding that down with some really fine paper like 1500 grit or 2000 before you put the white paint stick in there. But it won't hurt to do it for the purposes of illustration here. I'll go ahead and put the white stuff in without sanding it first, just to show you our result. All right, and there we have it. Alrighty, now that's all there is to the process, and this is the entirety of the machine. Basically, other than the stamps themselves, it's scrap parts. Chunk of a door, Delrin you can get from McMaster Car for, I don't know, it's $1 a foot or something. It's really cheap stuff. The stamps themselves will run you some money, but there's no avoiding that. You cannot make them yourself, and there's no substitute. This is just a piece of scrap aluminum here. PVC you can get at a hardware store for like $1 a foot. So that's all there is to this, and I'm going to take the camera down for a second, and I know that you're only seeing it from one angle, and it's kind of hard to understand what's happening here in this cradle until you see it from the side. So I will do that, and then I guess we're cooked. That'll be all she wrote. Let me see if I can outsmart this machine here. Alrighty. So there is the end-on view. That chunk of wood is below the level of those bolts that run through it. And this thing is solid as a rock. Those sit on there, and they'll spin and roll as necessary. I mean, I don't know how much they actually turn because I never looked down while I was applying pressure. But those are like little rollers. And then this guy just sits in there and does that. And remember that the stamp has a hinge in it. Slight, but definitely there. So it can track as the stem rolls around. It'll also, the press will actually be going up and down a little bit because there's a curvature there that it's following. So again, the smaller the diameter of the stem and the larger the imprint, the stamp itself, the more dramatic all this becomes. But I've done some little 3/8 inch barlings before, 3/8 inch diameter stems. So this type of setup is capable of doing anything that needs doing in our hobby. So that is it, and without further ado, we'll sign off. And you guys have fun experimenting with all this. Again, unless you have exactly the same setup, the same rig I do, all that this video provides you with is conceptual information. But now that you know how it goes together and how it needs to work, you can design your own little system and adapt it to the tools that you have in your own shop. Alrighty then. Take care. Later.